Welcome to our video on Blue Ocean Strategy, what it is, and how you might be able to do it. Now, I've done this as two videos so that those of you who are interested in understanding what is a Blue Ocean Strategy can enjoy this one. And then if you want to go on further and understand how you can do it yourself, that would be terrific. I've done now over 120 workshops on Blue Ocean thinking. And that's a compilation of what came out of the research by Chan Kim and Rene Marbon on how do companies actually open new market space, create demand, and sustain it, often in changing times. And the workshops often lead to people wanting to know how they can do it themselves or how I can help them. The video has been in demand for sufficient time now that it's appropriate for me to try and help you understand what does it mean to be in a blue ocean strategic direction and how might you do it. So, first part is what is it, and the second part is how to do it. First part is I always start with marketing evolution. At the end of the day, times have changed. Often, people don't realize it. We're wonderfully habituated into what we do and how we do it. So the most important thing is how have you evolved? And if Darwin had said it, it would have been great, but it's not the smartest or the strongest who survive, it's the most adaptive. And so these are changing times, time for you to adapt. The second thing I start with is that it's all about redefining success. Because, as this little cartoon shows you, if things are all going bad, isn't it time we rethink what success actually is? Now, your brain works as an anchor. So once you define success in a particular way, everything flows from there. And when times change, you keep trying to get more of the same. You're waiting for the market to return. Won't they buy more clothes the way they used to, not online, but in retail stores? Perhaps you're in the commercial real estate business and aren't there more people who want to rent from you in some fashion? Everything is changing. And clearly those businesses who are dependent upon home equity loans have clearly found out that the money isn't there to support them anymore. So now what do? We have to redefine success. Can you? Well, one of the things that the researchers doing Blue Ocean Strategy discovered was what is it that companies do often when they have failed in order to sustain themselves, reinvent themselves, reimagine, rebuild the company. And so they studied first 50 companies, then 100, then 150. And what Chan Kim and Rene Marbon found, and I met Rene, and she's a terrific lady, and they work out of INSEAD in France, but what they found was that there was a pattern. And it's less about the 150 companies per se than the patterns they began to find. And can you do this at the same time? So, a couple of things to start with. First, recognize that change is literally pain. The brain hates to work so hard. And so the habits that are there that guide your daily life are all going to be changed. So the first thing that you have to realize is that this is painful and you're going to run away from it. Your people are going to watch you, hoping you know where you're going because they don't have a clue. And so consequently, it will be very interesting to figure out how to help them go through the change process. The second is the more ideas you have, the more likely you will have good ones. You just don't know which ones they are. So my second word of wisdom to you is more ideas. Do you have a little black book? Does it sit by your bedstand? Do you put the ideas in there because you will forget them right away? More ideas you have at the intersections, they come together, and next thing you know, you have a bigger idea than any one of them. So it's important that you diverge and create lots of ideas before you try and judge them. Third, you have to follow a process. The one thing I loved about Blue Ocean thinking was that there's a process here. And it isn't chaotic, it really gives you a path to go. And I have some other videos that you can take a look at on the 6 steps that we put together to change in a very concise fashion. But right now, this is about a process. So that it isn't like we're talking about, just figure it out. There's stuff you can do first, second, and third. Next, I urge you to go explore. You cannot do research and ask people, what are your go-arounds? What things can't you do easily? What would you like to do better? Because they'll ask you to do more of the same at less money, so they can make more money, but they too aren't thinking about what's changing. I've had client after client where their clients haven't come to us and said, please, can't you do things differently? My market's changing. By and large, they don't see it. My last point is don't ask people, they can't tell you. At the end of the day, they really don't know. So, your turn. What are we going to do? First thing, let's take apart strategy. A strategy is different than the inbox driving your business. A strategy for people is extremely important. It gives you a picture of where you're going. Sometimes it's fuzzy, But by and large, you need to take all the stuff you're working through and give it a framework in which you can decide whether it's on strategy or just stuff. So first things first, we need a real strategy. It's a short story. It's not 450 pages. I've come into institutions where they have huge planning departments that have huge plans that never get turned into action. So this is something that's a short story that helps your people focus on what has to get done and how they're going to do it. Now, all strategies, both red and blue, ask what customers are we going to serve, what markets are we going to be in, how will we add value in innovative fashion, what key processes give us a competitive advantage, and really and truly, what are the real human, technological, or organizational edges that are ours? You know, how come our brand is better than yours? In a structured red ocean process, the market is pretty well given. So you're competing against other banks or other contractors or other manufacturers of similar kinds of products, and you're all pushing each other around. There's more supply of cars than there are people who demand them. And so the problem in a structured red ocean, it's very bloody. So think of red as very bloody. And you're all pushing each other out. I was a banker for many years. If I grew my deposits, somebody else shrunk theirs. Not a very pretty picture. So this is a zero-sum game. One wins, one loses, nobody gets ahead. So what happens next? Blue ocean. The thinking about a blue ocean is that it's open. Okay, nobody owns it. It's a market space that nobody really has crafted yet or carved out. Some of the case studies they use are companies that you can imagine. Yellowtail crafted a whole new wine to go after non-wine drinkers. Southwest Airlines, a whole airline that went after people who could drive cars. What could you do to go after non-users of the product, not going to competitors, but people who aren't thinking about you as a solution at all? It becomes very interesting. You've got a lot of real estate to rent. Well, now, who could use you to solve a whole lot of other problems besides just renting them space? How could you form a whole package? Maybe it can be fully integrated so they don't have to think about it. Maybe you even add the marketing to it. So just because you have space to rent doesn't mean that's the solution they're looking for, even though that's what you've always rented to them. Blue ocean, then, is about reconstructing your market space, and in doing so, creating demand, not fulfilling it, creating demand for things people didn't know they needed. Why should you? So the essence of this, and I'm a numbers person, is that the numbers are extremely compelling. Out of the 150 companies that they worked on, that they studied, there were 86% had line extensions, and that represented 62% of their total revenue, but only 42% of their profits. Those that went blue ocean, there were 14% of them. But they had 38% of the revenue, but 61% of the profits. So the whole revenue profit model here was of opening up a blue ocean that had higher margins than if you simply added line extensions. Now, there's nothing wrong with having incremental innovation that adds incremental revenue to your business. But the essence of blue ocean is looking for a whole market space that nobody owns yet. Scary, a little bit. But when you look at the companies that have done it well, often they had no choice, it's true, but they did it in a way that completely drove down cost, opened up market space, and eliminated the competition. So, do you want to swim in a bloody ocean of red? Or do you want to open a whole new space that's of unmet demand, creating a whole new service that hasn't been offered yet that's very blue ocean? 5 points to remember. Blue ocean thinking. We're going to add value in an innovative way. Now, you probably think that your company adds value. Do you do it in an innovative way? How is that much more clever and creative, simple and easy, so that your customers can solve their problems more easily? The second thing is forget the competition. Make them irrelevant. You really don't know what they're doing anyhow. And so rather than fight them in a red ocean, open up a new space that they're not in yet. The third is you're going to have to trade off the value and cost here. Typically, you think about this as, I have to invest more. Well, maybe you can shrink some. And so there's a whole exercise we do about what are we going to eliminate and reduce in order to create something new and raise the value that you're offering. The fourth thing is, who's a non-user? Think about customers, as you typically do, against those who use other banks or other real estate or other retail stores. But instead, think about a non-user. who isn't solving the problem in this way at all. Remember, Yellowtail went after people who don't drink wine. They had perfectly good solutions: hard liquor, beer, soda. So how do I turn a beer drinker into a wine lover? Now, last, if you do it alone, you're in trouble. So you have to align your entire organization and help them see, feel, and think differently, because they don't want to risk their jobs, they don't want to risk the company, they really don't know what we're doing. But if you get them engaged, and I can give you situation after situation where clients got the entire company involved in the process, and the ideas were abundant, they just hadn't ever asked anyone. So now's the time for you to think about a blue ocean strategy. Think about whether you can add value in an innovative way, make the competition irrelevant, change your value-cost trade-off, begin to build a business around non-users, and get your whole company involved in aligning around a blue ocean strategy. The joy will be that you, who has to lead this, will find yourself leading, and the team will follow, and next thing you know, you'll be swimming in a blue ocean. I do hope this was helpful, and thanks for joining us today.